Hey guys, guess what? That 10 for 10 podcast went over huge. People are loving it. Don't miss out. It won't be there forever. If you want to get the 10 for 10, go to VinnieTortorich.com and look down the right side of the homepage and you will see the 10 for 10 banner. What it is, the 10 top luminaries and their podcast. You don't have to go searching through almost 1,000 podcasts to find these. They're right there for you for $10. 10 great podcasts for $10. You can't miss this. Go do it now.
He's Hollywood's go-to guy for health and fitness. It's Fitness Confidential with celebrity fitness trainer Vinnie Tortorich.
Your good intentions have been stolen, and I'm here to help you get them back. I am Vinnie Tortorich, and folks, here we are again on the Friday show. Yep, this is the one where we bring in a really smart guy or lady to talk about things. We call it the Luminary Podcast, and it's become the one everyone, if you miss every other podcast, we do 5 a week now. If you miss it, this is the one no one ever misses. And there's a reason for that. It's because we get people in here who spread a lot of knowledge. Now, right now, you might hear a little music coming in the background. Yep, that's from 1969. One of my favorite shows after the Andy Griffith Show that started like in 1962 or 63. This one was called Mayberry RFD, and it starred a guy named Ken Berry. And today we have Ken Berry on the show. Welcome, Ken. How you doing, man?
I'm great, but I ain't that Ken
So
Berry.
what was it like being on that show back in 69?
Yeah.
Mayberry
that was
RFD.
way before my time. Before my time. I don't know. I've never heard of that show.
So sitcoms back then, did you guys get paid as well as you get paid now? How does that work, Ken?
I wasn't even born in 69. What are you talking about?
We're not talking to the Ken Berry from the Andy Griffith produced show. We're talking to Dr. Ken Berry, who is going to, as the young kids say, drop some mad knowledge on us today, man.
Yes.
Ken,
yes.
Besides me, has anyone in history ever related you to the Ken Berry from Mayberry RFD?
Yes, multiple, hundreds of times.
Seriously?
Yes. And I did a YouTube search of Ken Berry just the other day, and it made my heart so happy to see that I'm not number 99 now, with the other Ken Berry being the top 98 spots. I'm actually getting up there, so I'm competing with that other Ken Berry. And you may not know, there's also a retired baseball player by the name of Ken Berry.
That's right.
So I had a really rough road to start with, because if you Googled me, you found those other two famous guys and you didn't find me. And so I'm slowly making progress, and maybe one day I'll be number one on YouTube or on Google. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I have the same problem being one of the three Vinnies. I'm not famous, but the other two are. There's Vinnie Paziano, Vinnie Paz, who they just did a movie on, which raised him. I was starting to beat Vinnie Paz, and then the movie came out, and that pushed me down below him again. And there's also Vinnie Jones, and I think he stays up there. He was a big-time athlete in Europe, soccer player and actor. So when you're an athlete, it's like OJ in this country. He was a famous athlete and then became a famous actor and then became famous for allegedly killing his wife and another guy. But they're still looking for that killer. So good luck with that they will ever find that. So, having a name like Ken Berry, but Dr. Ken Berry, I was like, wow, Ken Berry's coming on the show today. And then I realized,
wrong one.
Yeah. But, I'm still excited to have you, Ken.
Well, thank you.
People ask me how I get a lot of different doctors on the show. And the truth be known is people write to me on Twitter and go, hey, man, why haven't you had this guy on yet? And I'll go look him up and go, hey, man, I need to have that guy on. And you were one of those guys. You're a family doctor, just bumping along, 49 years old as a family doctor, just doing your thing. Were you gaining weight? Did I read that? You were gaining weight. Yeah. You couldn't tell, you didn't know what to tell your patients anymore. Tell me the story. Where did you end up? Start me right there.
Okay, so I surprisingly somehow got accepted to medical school and made it through. And all my life, I'd been very slender, very athletic, always running around playing this game or that game, shooting this ball or kicking the other one. And when I got out of my residency training and started my medical practice, I was very busy, as you can imagine, very stressful, a lot of financial stuff I'd never really dealt with before. And so I'm sure my cortisol level was very high. I was working also in the emergency room moonlighting, and so my sleep was really screwed up. So again, my cortisol level, and I was just eating crap. I was eating whatever. I was probably eating worse than the standard American diet because I was in a rush, I was in a hurry, and I'd always been so slender and athletic. It didn't really matter what I ate. I could live on Twinkies and still have a six-pack back then.
Right.
And so sometime in my 30s, that changed. And people who are over 35 know what I'm talking about. It's like, whoa, where'd my six-pack go? And then it's like, whoa, how come I can't see my shoes anymore? And so over the course of a few years, I went from this athletic, slender, tall guy to this fat doctor who was having to walk into exam rooms multiple times every day and talk to people about losing weight.
Well, Ken, I want to I want to put a finer point on that because, I do these consults, people can call me and get a consult. And some of the people, and I'm glad you brought this up. Some of I talk about this every day. They'll say, yeah, I was always thin. And all of a sudden I started gaining weight. And it always coincides with, and I'm not kidding, I talk to a lot of truckers, men and women who became truckers, long-haul truckers, and they think it's because, oh, yeah, I sit on my butt all day long in a truck. But then I'll ask them this question. Are you a daytime trucker or a nighttime trucker? Because they can only roll so many, oh, no, I'm a nighttime trucker because I do something else during the day. And I go, okay, right there, we are not nocturnal animals. That's a problem. And they go, really? And then the other ones I'll get is, man, I got this great job as a bartender. Okay. Which your hours? Oh, I go to work at 9 in the evening. I get off at 4. Okay, that's your problem. Moms and dads will call and go, well, the moms think they're fat because they just had a baby, right? And the dads are like, I got fat because my wife had a baby. No, you got fat because you're interrupting your sleep all night. And, I want you to go back a little bit before you go into your story. Let's talk a little bit about cortisol. I don't think we give it enough attention.
I think it's second only to insulin, and it's in some people it's a close second, I think. And so, yeah, cortisol is vitally important. And if your cortisol is chronically elevated, either due to chronic stress, and you know as well as I do, Vinnie, there's good stress and bad stress, and I'm talking about the bad stress. And then if as an ER physician, I might sleep 6 hours, or I might get woken up every 30 minutes all night long. And I was working 2 and 3 shifts, 2 or 3 nights a week in the ER and working in my medical clinic full time at the same time. And so sometimes there'd be 2 full days that I literally wouldn't sleep more than 30 minutes into, a complete 48-hour period. And when you're young and dumb, you can do that, sure. But in the long run, it's going to take its toll eventually. And that's what happened to me. It caused me to gain about 55, 60 pounds ultimately.
And how tall are you, Ken?
I'm 6'3.5" ish, somewhere in there.
Okay. Were you carrying that weight overall? Or was it, that visceral fat around your midsection?
Yeah.
Where was it?
Yeah, it was, I had a little fat everywhere, but the majority of it was that visceral gut fat. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And it was because I was eating crap and not getting sleep. And, I was in my 30s at that point. And so it's a little easier to put on that weight when you're 35 versus when you're 25. But yeah, the majority of that was from being that age, eating that diet, and not getting the sleep.
You say eating crap. I want you to put a finer point on that one because people, look, we all do these throw words. Oh yeah, I was eating bad, man. I was eating crap. Yeah. Okay. What did you die? If you could think back to your 30s, you're in the ER, you're doing all this stuff. I see the TV shows, you're like Dr. McHot or whatever they call you and the whole thing. And you're there and there's hot nurses running all around. I know how these hospitals work. What are you eating?
So for a typical breakfast, I would have my bacon and eggs, but I'd also have biscuit and gravy, and I'd also have pancakes and syrup, and I'd also have a huge glass of OJ and maybe a big glass of milk.
Please
with my
tell me not in the
pancakes.
same day. Like this is other
Oh
days.
yeah. Oh no, no. I still eat a lot, but back in the day, I ate like a horse. And I don't think that was the problem. I don't think my portion size was the problem. I think it was what I was eating. I think if I'd eaten a dozen eggs and 12 pieces of bacon, I'd have been fine. But I wasn't doing that. I was eating the gravy and the biscuits and drinking the big OJ. Oh yeah, it was terrible. It was a carb coma fest back in the day.
What time? So you wake up in the morning, you would eat that. Did you get that thing like an hour later where you just wanted to take? It was like nappy time.
Not then, not then, but a few years later, I started to do that where I would have the kind of the carb coma, like, oh, I got to take a nap, I'm so tired. But sometimes in the middle of the night, I would get that, but never right after breakfast when I was that young.
Right.
But it started coming later, yes, sir.
So you're a young doctor, you start putting it on. What besides breakfast? What did the rest of your day look like?
Oh, so I was a 3 squares guy with snacks in between because I didn't want my blood sugar to drop, so I had to eat pretty much continuously so that wouldn't happen. At least that's what we were taught.
Right.
And so I would have a big lunch, I would go to the buffet, or I would have a big, a couple of sandwiches, and then I would probably drink another glass of milk or OJ, might have another kind of fruit juice. And then for dinner, of course, that would be a big meal as well. And I would have the potatoes and the gravy and the, all just the carb fest.
When you look back on that now, and I'll ask you later how long you've been doing it this way, because you've done a complete transformation. When you look back on just that sheer quantity of food, does it all seem crazy? Like your big glass of orange juice for breakfast, big glass of orange juice after lunch, with like what would be considered 3 lunches all into one. Not to mention, I mean, I was shocked when I asked you if you ate all that stuff for breakfast in the same day. You're like, oh, yeah, that's what I did.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
In my consults, I talk to people like that all the time. What was it? I mean, when you look back on it now, do you just go, how did I even stuff that much away? Can you even comprehend that? Or
Yeah, I don't eat nearly as much volume of food now, but I still eat quite a bit compared to the average person, I think. And I don't even think it was so much the amount or the portion sizes. It was just the total amount of total carbs. I mean, if I went back and added up a day's carbohydrate intake for me, it was a ridiculous amount of carbs that I would eat every day. And, it was just untenable. I couldn't continue that without starting to gain weight. And that's exactly what happened.
all right, we're going to take a quick break here, and I want to know, what it felt like, because I was talking to another doctor just the other day that was on the show, and he was like, the guy was like, I don't know, 100 pounds overweight, yet he was telling other people, hey, you need to lose weight. I want you to hang on to that. I need to tell you folks about, believe it or not, Amazon. I know you're thinking, oh, yeah, he talks about Amazon all the time. But I need to tell you guys a little something different about Amazon today. Here's what I've done. People have been asking me to do this for a long time. I'm working with Amazon now. So if you go to Amazon.com/shop/Vinnie Tortorich, if you put all that into Amazon, it will take you to a special little page. I'm actually going to it right now. It'll take you to a page that will show you all the recommended products that I recommend. Now, here's why this is important. Of course, yeah, you're going to see my book up there first. You're going to see Anna's book up there second. And, of course, my vitamins are all on the first line, right? But then after that, people ask me, hey, what kind of, if you went out and bought like a spinning trainer today, which one, to hook your bike to? I have that on there, the Cyclops. Hey, which Schwinn spinner do you use? I have that on there. I have everything that I use. My hiking boots, my Zamberlan hiking boots, the ones that when I do tough hike. The glasses I wear up on glaciers when I do that. The glasses I wear, my Stallone-style Ray-Bans. It's all there. Even the underwear, everything. And you could go look at the comments I made on each item. So things I use, everything I use, exactly where I use it. My grandpa's pine tar soap, my Garmin Fortrex that I use, everything is there, down to the mountain khakis and all the books that are in the book club. It's all in one place for you guys now. You could go right there, click on it, Brooks Saddles. I'm just looking at all the stuff that you guys end up asking me on Twitter, or you guys write to me at vinnytortorich.com. I will be putting up more products. I put up these initial products. Go check it out. Go see what's doing there. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that I spent some time putting this together. I will continue to put stuff that I use, stuff Serena uses, so on and so forth. I see Serena's put a few of her things up here. Yeah, that clean canteen, wide, stainless steel water bottle. It's all there. What I use when I hike to get water and to purify the water and so on and so forth. Anyway, folks, it's all there. You can also just go to vinnytortorich.com and click the banner. It will automatically now take you to the Vinny NSNG recommended products. And there you have it. We're talking to Dr. Ken Berry, not the guy that was on the 1969 sitcom. He started gaining some weight while he was in college. And now, Doc, you're out there telling people, if you want to be healthy, you got to lose weight. You ever felt they were looking at you going, hey, man, you need to look in the mirror?
Yeah, about 3 to 5 years after I started my private practice, I had gained about 50, 55, 60 pounds and was getting short of breath when I tried to tie my shoes. That's how much belly fat I had. And so every day I would have to go into the clinic and I would have to go into the exam rooms with patients and with a straight face say, dude, you need to lose some weight because this is, it's increasing your hemoglobin A1C and your triglycerides. It's increasing your risk of heart attack, stroke, and other causes of death. And with a straight face, this fat doctor had to tell these people, you need to lose weight. And something you need to know about me, I was kind of raised in a poor, plain-spoken, matter-of-fact family where you didn't lead by your words. You led by your example. And my parents were always telling me, my grandparents were telling me the story of this preacher who his parishioners found him in the bar smoking a cigarette. And they accosted him and said, hey, what the heck are you doing here? And he said, well, you need to do as I say, not do as I do. And that was a parable I'd heard frequently growing up. And so I definitely didn't want to be that preacher. I didn't want to be that fat doctor who told people they needed to lose weight. And so I had to find something to do to fix this because I wasn't going to spend my entire medical career as a fat doctor. And so the first thing I tried didn't work. And then as I kept trying different things, I finally found something that did work, that's easy, that's cheap, that's sustainable, and that I plan on doing for the rest of my life.
Well, tell me about what didn't work because I know you don't know my story, but, right after college, I played college football, and I was built like a brick shithouse. At 200, I'm only 6 feet tall, and I played at 225 pounds in college. I have one of those bodies at the time, young, you're 19, 20, 21. I worked out really hard. I looked like I was on steroids, although I've never taken a drug in my life. I have one of those bodies, rock hard, waist, ripped, the whole deal. Yet, right when I was done with football, I started noticing, of course, now I'm 21. I'm not 18, 19 anymore. I'm still eating crap every day. I'm not exercising as much. And I literally, I was never a guy that looked in the mirror a whole lot, right? I love working out. I love the way it felt. But I remember telling a friend of mine, Janie Friedland, we were having a hamburger at Camellia Grill down in New Orleans one day. And I told her I thought that my jeans were shrinking up in the dryer. And she started smirking. She was sucking on a milkshake, and she, smirked into, blew back into the milkshake, went all over the counter. And I went, what? And she said, oh, sweetie, your dryer isn't shrinking your jeans. You're getting fat. And I literally said to her, what are you talking about? And I did my arm like Popeye. I said, look at these guns. I still had 18, 19-inch arms, right? Look at these guns. She goes, oh, your arms look great. And she goes, by the way, your legs look pretty good too. She goes, but you're getting a gut. And I was like, what? Huh? What do you mean a gut? So I'll never forget, Ken, I went home that night and I took a shower and the whole thing. And the people who lived in that old apartment before me, they had one of those mirrors on the back of the door. You know, it's kind of half, looks like a funhouse mirror because it's half wrinkled. So before I got dressed, I stood in that mirror and I looked at myself for the first time and I went, holy shit, Janie is right. Look, I'm getting a gut. I remember turning to the side and looking at it, turning to the front. I literally turned around and looked at it from the back and it was like, she's right. I'm getting fat. I hopped on a scale. I was 270 pounds. You know, in no time, I said to myself right then and there, this ain't going to happen. And, you know, while I was still in college getting my degree in physical education and exercise physiology and nutrition, I went, wait a minute. I need to start figuring, if I'm going to tell people what to do to stay in shape, what am I doing? Am I going to be one of those fat coaches with a cigar in my mouth? Even though I don't smoke cigars, but I was assuming that happens at some point. I know what I tried, and I've talked about it a lot on this show. Tell me some of the things you tried before you found, you know, keto or whatever you're doing now.
Sure. So when I realized, and it was kind of like yours, I was so busy I didn't really look in the mirror a lot. And so when I noticed, dude, I'm getting short of breath when I try to tie my shoes, right? I thought, well, maybe I don't know, maybe something's wrong with me. So I checked a bunch of lab work and I really took a good look in the mirror and I was like, dude, you're getting fat. What the heck? Right? And so I got my lab work back and my triglycerides were elevated. My hemoglobin A1C was elevated. 2 or 3 different markers of inflammation were elevated. And I was like, oh, no, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to be that fat diabetic doctor. So I thought, well, you know, I had a nutrition class in medical school, right? So I'm going to go up in the attic and I'm going to find my nutrition notes from medical school because I'm obviously forgot some stuff, right? And I'm going to go over those notes again and I'm going to see what the heck I've forgotten or missed and I'm going to fix this because I can't have this. I'm not going to be the fat doctor. So I climbed up in the attic and I dug around and I got all my nutrition notes together. And your listeners may be envisioning this big, thick stack with big, fat books. And basically, I can hold everything I was taught in medical school about nutrition between these 2 fingers.
Wow. And he's holding his fingers about a half an inch apart, folks.
yeah, maybe an inch. But I had a little paperback book that was maybe 150 pages. And I had a half a semester's notes. We had class once a week, I think, for half a semester. And that was it. There was no more nutrition talk. There was no talk about nutrition or diet or health after that, except for what the American Diabetic Association and the American Heart Association recommended. And that was it. And so I got those notes down and I went through them and I looked through everything and I was like, okay, so take home message is eat lots of good complex carbs, eat lots of whole wheat, eat super low fat, no saturated fat, and start jogging. That was the take-home message from my entirety of medical school nutrition education. And I thought, okay, whatever. That's what they said. That obviously, you know, it was medical school, so it can't be wrong,
yeah,
right?
They can't. Yeah, and so, you went to school at Tennessee. I think I read you went to Tennessee.
Yeah, UT. That's right, UT and Memphis. And so our nutrition classes were taught mainly by PhDs, and I had this one PhD in particular who I'm sure has passed on now. So with respect, I'm going to tell you about him. And he was a brittle diabetic, and he told us routinely about how he helped control his brittle diabetes by eating lots of servings of whole wheat pasta. And he was from New Zealand. Right. And so he said pasta, very funny. And I can remember that to this day, how he said he ate lots of pasta, but it was whole wheat pasta, so it was okay. And now looking back, I'm like, yeah, dude, that's why you were a brittle diabetic, because you were eating all that pasta. But that's another story. So after about a month and a half, 2 months of doing exactly what I was taught to do in medical school, I gained another 10 pounds. Exactly, right. And so, you know, that brings us to the question, why are there fat doctors anyway? I mean, you guys there should be no such thing as a fat doctor.
Right, exactly.
Because, first of all, there's 2 things. Doctors are hard workers. They have to be, or they couldn't have got into medical school and couldn't have made it through medical school.
Type A personalities, all the way.
That's right. So we have to be hard workers. But secondly, we're supposed to know everything there is to know about the care, feeding, and maintenance of the human body, right? So we have the wherewithal and we have the knowledge. So there should be no such thing as a fat doctor. And I'm stealing this in part from a doctor named Jason Fung. You may or may not have heard of him. But
Jason's been on this show. I kind of broke Jason Fung to the world. He started coming on this show long before he wrote a book or anything.
Yeah, I love that guy. He really, I have a lot of respect for him. But he's the one that came up with the fat doctor analogy, and I stole it. But I was that fat doctor. And it wasn't because I wasn't a hard worker, because I was, and I still am. It was because the knowledge that I had was crap. It was incorrect. I was taught incorrect information about how to feed human beings and how to optimize the human body with the food that you eat. And so that was my error. And I went back and I said, well, dude, you obviously you're working like a dog here, but you're losing ground. You gained 10 more pounds. And that was at the point that I kind of had a realization, obviously my New Zealander professor who told me to eat lots of servings of whole wheat pasta didn't know what the hell he was talking about. So I'm going to have to unofficially go back to school and learn about human nutrition and what actually works to get your lab values back to normal and what works to optimize your health, right? And so I started looking around. I started looking kind of outside the box.
Right.
And I found an old tattered copy of the Atkins Diet at a rummage sale, and I bought it for 50 cents, and I read it in a couple of days. And I was like, well, that's exactly backwards to everything I've ever been taught. But, I mean, he seems pretty confident in what he's saying, and it seems like a lot of people have had results. So there may be something there. I'll file that away. And
wait. Hang on to that. I want you to pick up your story where you left off, because your story is so similar to mine. Because we both, I was at a medical university not seeking a medical degree. I was at Tulane, a little further south than where you guys are. And, I was in med school and pre-med because they didn't know where to put me. I was getting a degree that didn't really exist. So they had me in pre-med. And I'll never forget, everyone would get upset with me in pre-med because we had one course, and I wish I could remember which course it was, but the professor was talking about the importance of macros. And you may remember, chime in if you remember these same sort of things. And I remember, I was a very, diligent and meticulous note taker. This is how I did well in college. I wrote down everything and went back and rewrote it and studied it because I'm an idiot. I can't just, So I'll never forget, he was talking about the macros. He was talking about carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. And he had mentioned in one of his lectures that fat was the body's preferred fuel. Our body loves to burn fat. It burns it very efficiently. Our brain needs fat. We need dietary fat. So I wrote down body preferred fuel, fat. And he was talking about, how, fat is burns slower and it lasts longer. And, is how we lived through the ice age. And, and all this, this guy's going through all this stuff. And then a couple of weeks later, he's talking about, same professor, talking about something else. And he's explaining how, to do anything aerobic, you need to load up on carbohydrates. Going back to your pasta guy, you got to get a lot of carbs, bread, pasta. You got to eat all the stuff, fruit, all the fruit you can get. So I raised my hand. I went, hey, and whenever I'd raise my hand, everybody in the class would go, oh, because all these kids wanted to do was get their A and get out of there to go to med, go to real med school, not pre-med. And I raised my hand and said, Doc, I'm looking back in my notes here. And the notes say, by the way, your camera went away. Are you still there? Ken? Did I lose Ken? Oh, there you are. Ken, are you still there?
Nope, I'm here.
Okay,
I'm
great.
here. Sorry.
That's all right. So anyway, doctor's telling me, I said, look, you said fat was the preferred fuel. Now you're telling me I can't do aerobic activity unless I have these carbohydrates. And he goes, that's right. I said, well, what about fats? Why can't we fats don't burn fast enough. I said, but you said it was the preferred. Don't worry about what I said. You now need carbohydrates. So that was the first clue in my long life, going back to 1984, 83, I think. And at the time, right after that, this guy, Robert Haas, came out with a book called Eat to Win, where he's touting all of this. you want to be lean, you want to be healthy, you want to look like Martina Navratilova. Eat all of these grains, these heart healthy grains. This is how you do it. Don't even touch a fat. Don't touch meat. Just eat pasta around the clock. And that's when pasta kind of became a thing. He brought this to the United States. And I'm looking at all this going, really? No protein, huh? No fat? Just eat carbohydrates? It flies in the face of everything. And I started noticing, even though I started losing weight by then after my thing with Janie, when I tried to eat all these carbohydrates, I'd put the weight back on again, no matter how much I ran or how much I rode the bike. I was like gaining weight and exercising 2 and 3 and 4 hours of aerobics daily. So I was like, if I'm doing this much aerobics, how can a mere mortal ever lose weight doing this? It's just not going to work, right?
Right.
So
exactly.
I just wanted to commiserate because you were doing the same thing. You're 5 years younger than me, so you were in college, undergrad in the late 80s, I'm guessing. Is that right?
I was kind of a bent arrow. I didn't go straight to medical school. I took a little detour there for a few years. So I got started probably a little later than you think I did. But, that's the same with me. I started running and I started lifting weights. And, I was just eating a ton of whole wheat, whatever. And it was like I wasn't doing anything. I just kept gaining weight. And so doctors have this thing, and I'm gonna spill the beans a little bit about doctors. We always suspect, and we're taught to suspect that our patients are non-compliant, and to always be on the lookout for that. And so when we tell a patient, oh, now you just need to burn more calories than you eat lots of whole wheat, and then when they come back in 3 months or 6 months and they've gained 3 or 5 more pounds, we're like, well, they just didn't follow the diet, right? They just didn't do what we told them. They haven't been doing their walking. They haven't been doing, they're just sitting around eating Cheetos. That's what they're doing. They're,
Right.
And so, and then also if we prescribe a medication, we're always taught to be aware they're probably non-compliant. They probably didn't finish that antibiotic, and they probably not taking their cholesterol pill every day. And so until this happened to me, my paradigm is that none of my patients were listening to me.
Right.
They weren't following this wonderful advice that I was giving them. Obviously, they weren't following it because they were all getting fatter.
Right.
So they obviously weren't listening to me. But then when this happened to me, I was like, oh, no, doctor, they were following your advice. Your advice is just crap. That's what's wrong. You were giving crappy advice. And I mean, that was a huge wake-up call for me, both as a person who was formerly an athlete, and now as this doctor who's supposed to know everything, and people are coming to me and actually paying me for my learned medical advice, and I was giving them crap advice. And so not a week goes by to this day that I don't apologize to a patient individually or on one of my YouTube videos. I apologize because I was giving crap advice. I did not know what the hell I was talking about. I was repeating parrot-like exactly what I'd been taught, but I'd been taught the wrong stuff.
Right. I mean, we were all told calorie in, calorie out. It doesn't matter how you get the calories out, whether you run them off or cycle them off. But I'll never forget my friend Linda Weil. We did understudy together at Tulane. She went off to Duke to become a physical therapist, and we used to study together all the time. Linda was and still is a great woman. And I said to Linda, this is probably 1984. I said, Linda, I don't think calorie in, calorie out is the thing. And she says, what do you mean? Of course, that's how you lose weight. I said, no, I don't think so. And she goes, well, okay, so everybody's wrong and you're right. And I went, well, maybe, but I don't know. But here was my first clue. Linda and I were sitting. I was having a double espresso. They had a little kiosk right between Tulane and Loyola. And I used to love getting the espresso there. And I would grab that. And they would also have some candies you can on that kiosk that you can get. And they had the M&Ms, right? The little small bag of M&Ms. And I said, here's my first clue. I said, I don't know what I'm talking about yet, but here's my first clue. We learned in the lab last week, because we had a great lab where we would, hook people up and do max VO2s. We would do, prick the finger while they're running at lactic threshold to figure out, yada, yada, yada. I said, Linda, when someone's working at maximum speed, right, what kind of calories are they burning per 15 minutes? She goes, I don't know, probably 150 calories. I said, okay, so that would stand to reason that at 30 minutes, they're burning, 300 calories. She goes, yeah, give or take. Maybe some people are burning 350. I said, okay, so if you go out and jog for 30 minutes, you're burning 300 calories. But if you sit here and have one snack of M&Ms, you're putting those calories back on. And that's just one snack of M&Ms. Think about breakfast, lunch, dinner, ice cream at night, everything else. There's no way that calorie in, calorie out. That was my first clue, that calorie in. Just looking at the back of a bag of M&Ms while I was enjoying my M&Ms with my espresso, that was my first clue when I started going, this can't be it. There's something else in play here. And I didn't know what it was. It took me years to figure it out.
Yeah, you were a very early adopter, because when I was in med school, no one ever said fat is your body's preferred macro. No, I'd never heard that. If anything, they went out of their way, because I was being trained right in the beginning heyday of the statin revolution, right? Lipitor
Right.
and Zocor were huge, becoming billion-dollar drugs.
What year, Ken? What year was that?
I graduated med school in 2000, so I started in '96, and so that's when there was a brand name thyroid replacement that was synthetic, and that's when the statins were really starting to be huge. And so that's all we heard was just minimize all fats and don't even look at saturated fats, much less eat them. And then if you're, you probably should still take a statin anyway. That's kind of how I was taught. And so you were a very early adopter, obviously.
Well, no, I didn't adopt it back then, but that was where my clues started, because I'm a nerd. And I've only ever cared about one thing in life, performance. I mean, you can look behind me here in my office. I have if you can see behind me, there's a spinner facing a television, and there's also a paddle erg right here. And sometimes I'll have a third device in here, and that's just in my office. I'm always, but that was my first clue. I didn't do anything about it. And I remember watching a documentary of some sort where they were talking about longevity. And they had this one guy in this longevity program. This had to be 1991, 92. And they said, this guy just basically lives on bacon all the time. And he was like, yeah, I just eat bacon and I eat eggs. And, I've lost a lot of weight. And the guy looked like he was ripped. And the guy goes, well, obviously you exercise all the time. And he goes, no, I never exercise. I've just lost all of my weight. And they talked about that guy, and they said, well, yeah, he looks great. They went to a doctor in a white coat in the lab, and he goes, yeah, he looks great, and he looks wonderful and the whole thing, but, he's getting a lot of cholesterol, and he'll probably die. And I remember thinking, yeah, that's always the argument people have against Dr. Atkins, and they always have that argument about, the Framingham study and Dr. Atkins, and they're juxtaposed in their opinions, and on and on and on. So, what I would do here in Hollywood when I started training people, they would say, look, you have 6 weeks to get this actress from a size 4 down to a size 2 for a movie. I would go, okay, here's what we're going to do. This is not the healthiest thing in the world, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to forget about carbohydrates, and we're going to just eat protein. And whenever they would get hungry, I would say, okay, you're hungry, just have a little oil, a little olive oil. Just put some, a little fat will make that hunger go away. And that was my big trick. That was an early day version of, I have 6 weeks to make you look a certain way. These people are super motivated. You want to talk about type A personalities.
Right.
They can make $1 million on a movie. They're going to listen to whatever this idiot has to say. You can't get the mere mortal to do that. That's why I never thought I would break outside of Hollywood, because why would the average person want to do any of this, number one? And number two, I even thought it would kill us if we stayed on it long term.
Right. And so, yeah, when you talk about mere mortals, that's my patients I see every day. And you can imagine being a mere mortal and then your doctor heaping this guilt on top of that. Not only were you not man enough or woman enough to do the diet I told you to do, you failed. And then here I am, the doctor, going to kind of put a little guilt complex to you and guilt trip you because you obviously are not doing what I'm telling you to do. And you can just imagine all these high and mighty doctors with their gut hanging over their belt, looking down at the mere mortals who just can't do this diet that we're recommending. And the problem with that is some doctors like me and Jason Fung have kind of woke up and went, what the hell? What am I doing here? This obviously is not working. I need to look for something else. But there are still doctors to this day in 2018 sitting there with their belly hanging over their belt, talking down to patients about how you're obviously not doing the diet I'm telling you to do. I mean, does anybody else see the lunacy in that?
Yeah, a lot of people do, Ken. I mean, look, Tim Noakes has been on the show a half dozen times. Gary,
love that guy.
Yeah, but Tim's a big fan of this show. I'm a big fan of what he does in the fight. Gary Fetke has been on the show.
Yeah. Love that guy too.
They're censoring that guy. He's telling people, look, I won't have to cut your limbs off if you just eat this way. And the government, the people, they're coming after him over in Tasmania, Hobart. They're coming after the guy, and you sit there going, he's saving lives, he's saving limbs. Yet you guys are not only are you not leaving him alone, you're coming after him. So I want to know, we're going to take a quick break. I want to know about your transformation. How did you transform yourself first? Did you do it along with some patients? I need to know the story at that point, but first I need to tell everybody about the best olive oil in the world. Villa Capelli, that's right. Tell you guys a little story about a wop named Vinnie Tortorich. That's right, I just talked about myself in the third person. But when I was a kid, my grandmother would take me and my older brother Michael, and she would put olive oil in our hair and massage it in, and she would leave it there for a day or so. And look, I couldn't blame the other Cajun kids down in Louisiana for calling me a greasy wop. That's what I was. I mean, I was greasy. The Italians believe in using olive oil for everything. And boy, my grandmother, I think she was right, because I've heard other people tell me, oh yeah, you rub some olive oil in your scalp is really good for you. This olive oil, folks, you do not want to rub into your scalp. You want to ingest it. It's the best olive oil in the world. Villa Capelli, they've been a sponsor of this show for almost the entire 6 years we've been doing this. We were talking about them before they were ever sponsors. Back when Anna and I would do 4 and 5 shows in one day and my voice would get raspy and sore, she would go to her kitchen and she would pour me about 2 ounces of Villa Capelli, and I would sip it during the show, and that got me through. Loved it so much we started talking about it, and next thing we knew, we were selling them out in the United States. Paul Capelli called and said, hey, would you please talk about us on every show? And I said, absolutely. Would you please send me a check? And he said, absolutely. And we have been simpatico ever since. By the way, when my new vitamin my new D3 comes out with K1 and K2, it's coming out at purevitaminclub.com, guess what? Made a deal with Villa Capelli. That's right. We won't have any kind of cheap rapeseed oil, olive oil mixed with our D3. We're going to have Villa Capelli. Folks, if you want the best olive oil on the planet, go to VinnieTortorich.com, click through the Villa Capelli banner, and when you get to checkout, put in the promo code Vinnie, VINNIE. Do not put the wimpy Y on Vinnie, or I've instructed Stephen Crutchfield to actually charge you guys 20% more. Vinnie, VINNIE. If you put the wimpy Y, they will charge you more. You want to get the 10% off, VillaCapelli.com. Go there, or go to VinnieTortorich.com and click through the banner. We're talking to a guy who I'm quickly falling in love with. And ladies, you might want to go check out his website, because he is hot. I don't know if he's married or not, but you do want to see this guy. Are you married, Ken?
Very happily so.
He is not married, ladies. You can still get him. He just said it right here. No, he's a married man, ladies. He's off the market. All the good ones are. And but look, ladies, you guys would have looked at him and, oh, he's fat, I don't want him. But now he's a doctor and he looks like Superman. Ken, tell me how that all happened.
So after I read the Atkins Diet Revolution book, which I mentioned, I got at a rummage sale for 50 cents, an old tattered paperback. And I read it, and it was backwards from everything I'd ever been taught ever, right? As far as human nutrition. And so I thought, well, I can't recommend that to patients because that'd be malpractice. I mean, maybe it works somehow, but that can't be good for you, right? And so I kept researching, and I come upon this book called The Primal Blueprint by Mark Sisson.
Sure, he's been on the
And
show.
I devoured that book and loved it, and that shifted my paradigm a little more. And then I came upon this book called The Paleo Diet by Lauren Cordain, and I devoured that book in a couple of days. And so with those 3 books under my belt, I thought, well, I still can't recommend this to patients, but I'm going to try this myself. And so I did kind of a hybrid Atkins ancestral paleo diet, which would basically be a ketogenic diet.
Right.
Right. And so immediately I started to lose weight. And at this point, I'd gotten tired of the jogging, so I quit that, like everybody. I mean, there's very few people who enjoy jogging for an hour a day, and I'm not one of those people. So I had quit the jogging, and I just started eating lots of fat, and good quality fat, but fat nonetheless, and lots of veggies, real good cruciferous brassicas. I started eating lots of eggs. I started eating lots of protein, and I was still eating probably just as much food as I ate before. And I mentioned previously, I ate like a horse, and I'm not joking. Growing up in my family, you were judged by how many times you went back to the buffet. And if you didn't go back to the buffet at least 3 times, then you were a sissy boy.
Right.
And if you didn't eat seconds of Granny's home cooking and seconds of Granny's cake, you were a sissy boy, and you would literally get made fun of if you didn't eat 2 or 3 servings of everything. And so that's kind of how I learned to eat like a horse. But I noticed that even though I was still eating a ton of food, I was losing weight. And so because like I said, I still eat a lot, not nearly as much as I did then, but I still eat a lot now compared to most people. But people would be like, dude, how are you losing weight? You eat so much food. And I'm like, well, I think it matters more what you eat. I don't think the quantity matters. That's what I'm kind of learning here in this experience. Yeah, and they're like, well, are you counting calories? I'm like, no, I never count calories. I just eat till I'm full, but I eat these certain foods, and I avoid these other foods completely. And so that's kind of what I did. And then after maybe 3 months of doing that, I rechecked my blood work, and my triglycerides had returned to normal, and my hemoglobin A1C had returned to normal. And my HSCRP and my homocysteine and some other inflammatory markers had returned to normal. They were all back to normal. I had lost 30 pounds in about 2 to 3 months. I don't remember exactly because it's been a minute.
Right.
But I just know that. And so there's this thing when you're an ER doctor, and I was an ER doctor initially before I started my family practice, but you wear scrubs all the time. And scrubs have a drawstring waist.
Right.
And so it's like an infinite number of holes in your belt, right?
Right.
And so you can't really tell. And that's one of the reasons I got fat without really noticing it, was because my pants still fit. But it was because they had a rope in them that was 20 sizes too big. And so only when I had outgrown that rope, which never happened, I didn't get that big. But when you're wearing scrubs every day, you can't really tell if you've gained or lost weight. It's only when you put your blue jeans on and you're like, damn.
Yeah.
That's when when you put something on with a finite limit on it. And so after I had been doing the paleo ancestral ketogenic diet, the Atkins, for 3 months, I'd lost 20, 30 pounds. All my numbers had returned to normal. And at that point, I faced a kind of a quandary, a dilemma. It's like, okay, this obviously works because all my numbers are normal now. My belt lines returned to normal. I feel great. Everybody's like, oh, I see you joined the gym, didn't you? And I'm like, no, I didn't join the gym. What are you talking about? They're like, well, I mean, your arms and your chest. And I mean, it looks like you work out all the time. You must work out all the time. And patients say that. And I'm like, no, I never work out. And that probably, for somebody like you, Vinnie, that probably, you probably don't love me less now because it's like, no, dude, I don't have a gym membership. I don't own any of that equipment that you have behind you. I don't do any of that.
But can I tell you, I walk on stage a lot and give a lot of speeches every year. And the first words out of my mouth, because I get introduced as, the Beverly Hills fitness trainer guy, here he comes. So everyone is waiting for me to walk on stage and go, you need to exercise. And the first words out of my mouth is, exercise is a poor way to lose weight. That's how I bring my audience
Absolutely.
in.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
as a matter of fact, I can make an argument that exercise can actually, if you don't do everything right, can actually cause you to gain weight, especially if you're
Absolutely.
eating the standard American diet. You will gain weight
Absolutely.
on exercise. And
Yeah.
so when people hear the exercise guy walking up saying, exercise, poor way to lose weight, you want to exercise for your health, not for weight loss. And they go, what? What is he saying? Oh, my God. But,
Exactly.
all of this is interesting because now, Ken, and I'm going to lead you down this road. Now you have what you might call a dilemma because you can't unknow what you now know, right? But now you
Exactly.
still have these. You have the AHA and everyone telling you, hey, if you go tell this to patients, you're going to kill them with your heart disease because
Right.
you're telling them to eat cholesterol, which is all BS. So I'd like to go down that road because I've been doing this show for 6 years, and that's still one of the biggest questions I get. Oh, yeah, I'll be nice and thin in a coffin with Vinnie with his cholesterol. What say you on that?
Well, doctors are constrained by something called community standard of practice, and we're constrained by standards of practice, and we're constrained by evidence-based medicine. There's three ways that we're kind of roped in, and that's why doctors like Sean Baker and others have gotten in trouble, is because if you stray much outside the box as a doctor, you'll get slapped on the wrist by your medical board or by your hospital privileges board. And so, because another doctor can report you, and even if what you're saying is the answer that literally has been handed down from the Most High, right, straight from the Creator, and like this is the answer for everything, even if you have that as a doctor and you're handing it out for free to patients, if you're not saying what is the community standard of care, you can get in trouble if another doctor reports you. And that's why a lot of doctors, even though they know that the Paleo diet, the Primal diet, the ancestral diet, the ketogenic diet is the way, they don't say it out loud, and they would never say it on the internet like this because all it takes is one phone call and you're in trouble with the medical board. And that sort of thing happens. And so some doctors are just too intimidated by that to step out there. But at this point in my personal life and in my career, I had discovered this thing that worked better than any diet that I had ever recommended to patients. Because I used to recommend the American Heart Association diet and the American Diabetic Association diet. And then for a while, I recommended the South Beach diet, which I think is a little less bad than the other two I just mentioned.
Right.
But still, it's just laden with its carb coma. And so I had this dilemma of, hey, I found the answer. I can fix your triglycerides, and I can fix your type 2 diabetes, and I can fix your obesity. But if I trumpet this from the rooftops, I could get in trouble. Literally could be sanctioned or censured or fined by my medical board if I talk about this stuff too much. And so I very quietly made up some little handouts in my office, and I would hand them out to people. But I was very careful to never talk about this for the first few years publicly, because I didn't want it, word to get out. And, if I just hand this to a patient, chances are they're not going to go and just proselytize it to the world. It's just going to work for them. And I think a lot of doctors.
Well, let me ask that before you go on. Has anyone, come raised an eyebrow and said, "Hey, Ken, what the F over there? What are you doing?" Have you?
Oh, yeah,
because look,
yeah.
you mentioned Sean Baker, who again been on the show a couple of times. His show is coming. His next show is coming out right before yours comes out. And the aforementioned Noakes and Gary Fetke. I mean, these guys have lost income, and I mean, they're literally trying to crucify Noakes over in South Africa. Tell me, how did it come down on guys like you? Tell me what's happened to you.
So I haven't paid nearly the price they have. I've gotten some negative feedback from fellow doctors and from local things and stuff like that, but nothing like they've had to suffer. And I really feel like those guys are martyrs, and I think that they're literally giving the answer to people and are being punished for it. And I think one day there will be an accounting for that sort of thing for medical boards and for hospital privilege boards. Those people are going to pay for what they've done, because you can't martyr somebody for telling the truth and there not be blowback and ramifications. So I hope that medical boards and hospital privileges boards are starting to think about that, because I promise you, I'm a Southern boy, and the chickens always come home to roost. Sooner or later, you'll get what you got coming, and that's going to happen.
Here's I've said this on the show before. We look at some of the great atrocities in this world. Hitler killed well over 6 million Jews. Some people would say it was way more than 6 million, over 7 or 8 million. Which is, you look at that and you go, how can that happen? And you look at the Armenian genocide, and you look at what happens in Croatia and all these places around the world where we just kill people, and then you go, okay, we need to be better than that. I've always said, and you don't have to agree with me, the ADA and the AHA more than anyone else, along with the World Health Organization, has more blood on their hands than Hitler. They don't want to roll that back.
I agree with you completely. I think that the American Heart Association has caused millions of unnecessary heart attacks with their dietary advice. And I don't think they've prevented many heart attacks at all with their medication advice. So, yeah, I'll go on record right now saying that. And I've actually called the American Heart Association out multiple times in public, and will continue to do so, and the American Diabetic Association as well, because it needs to be said. And I'm not afraid to say something if I believe it's the truth and it needs to be said. Though the heavens may fall, I'm going to say it, because here's why. There are obese type 2 diabetics who are literally on the waiting list to have their legs chopped off right now. And there are type 2 diabetics who are within 6 months are going to be on dialysis. And for people who don't know, being on dialysis is a crappy life. It's a terrible, miserable life. You don't want that. And there are people who are just on the verge of losing their eyesight and being blind. But I'm supposed to shut up and just toe the party line and let those legs be cut off and let those kidneys fail and let those eyes go blind? I don't think so. I can't do it. And if you want to come get me, then come get me. But I'm sorry, but my job is to prevent suffering and to alleviate disease. That's my job. And if I figured out a way to do it better than the American Heart Association can do it, then you damn well bet I'm going to say it out loud, and I'm going to scream it from the rooftops. Because after a few years of quietly handing out my little handouts to patients and saying, maybe you should try this ketogenic diet. I don't know. Maybe you should try this paleo diet. And then watching those people come back 6 months later and had lost 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 60 pounds, 80 pounds. And they're like, Doc, every time I take this diabetes pill now, my blood sugar drops too low, so I quit taking it. Don't get mad at me. But I quit taking that diabetes medicine. I couldn't take it anymore. And I'm like, dude, I'm not mad at you. I really want to kiss you right now, because you're proving what I thought was true. And so many people would come back and be like, yeah, I couldn't take that blood pressure medication anymore, because if I took it, my blood pressure would drop too low and I would feel like I was going to pass out. And I'm like, yeah, that's because you've lost 40 pounds and you don't have hypertension anymore, right?
Yeah, it all changes, yeah.
All these people kept proving my point, like, yeah, this works. This works better than the ADA, the AHA, the South Beach. It works better than any diet I've ever seen. And these people are keeping it off. And let me tell you something about the ketogenic diet that I love, and I see it every day, is that people, if they fall off the wagon, so to speak, right? Because, a lot of people do Weight Watchers or whatever. U.S. News and World Report will tell you that's one of the best weight loss plans of all time.
Exactly. Every year they do that. And by the way, at the same time, saying that what you're talking about should not ever be considered. So don't leave that part out, Ken.
Right. But people will lose 20, 30, 40 pounds on Weight Watchers, and then what happens? They fall off the wagon and they gain it all back plus 5 pounds, right? That happens routinely. But when people fall off the ketogenic diet wagon, and they've lost, say, 40 pounds to start with, and they'll come back 6 months or a year later and be like, oh, Doc, I just fell off the wagon. And I'll say, well, how much have you gained back? 20 pounds.
Right.
Get it? You get the difference?
Yeah, big difference.
Never have I had a single patient who had done the ketogenic diet and lost a substantial amount of weight. Never have I had a single one of those patients gain it all back plus 5. It never happens. They might gain 5 or 10 or 20 back, but they never gain it all back, and they sure the hell never gain it all plus 5.
Right, and then some people, they'll do the in-between where they'll kind of do it over the holidays, they'll do it halfway, and they'll say, well, I went through the holidays. I didn't lose any weight. I'll always say to them, did you gain any weight? And they'll say, well, no. Is that the first year in the holidays where you haven't gained weight? They'll go, yeah. No. I said, okay, so that's not a stall. You're still in the ball game.
Exactly.
Ken, before we run out of time, I want to finish the show talking about your book, Lies My Doctor Told Me. So we're going to get into that. So get ready for me to ask you a couple of questions about that. Folks, the only other ad I'm going to do today, I don't talk about this much, but I see it in social media so much that I think it's worth it for me to do a little ad here. I'm not doing my Thrive Market or any of that. I'm just telling you guys, if you go to get premium access on my, Dr. Ken was just talking about this. He mentioned names. Let's see. Maybe he can help me with this. Like Tim Noakes, Lauren Cardane, Mark Sisson, Jason Fung, Sean Baker. He didn't mention these, but Gary Taubes. And then there's Gary Taubes with a vagina, also known as Nina Teichels. All of these people have been on the show several times. Here's the problem. I can only keep the most current 50 shows live. It's just way too much bandwidth. But for $2-3 a month, you could get we have like almost 1,000 shows backlogged with all the people I just mentioned. Perlmutter. Come on, Perlmutter doesn't really even do podcast. Did this show. William Davis. And then there's celebrities like Minnie Driver and Howie Mandel, Adam Carolla. All of these people have been on the show. You want to hear all of those back episodes. If you go to my website, VinnieTartaris.com, get the premium. It says get premium access. It's right down the right side of the page. It's like a little black looking thing. It says get premium access, Fitness Confidential and Angriest Trainer podcast. We used to call it the Angriest Trainer podcast. That's why that's in there. Click on that. For $3 a month, you get that. It's like $3 or something. If you buy the whole year, it's like, I don't know, $20 or something. Sign up for that. Just sign up for it. Trust me, it's the best money you will ever spend. Ken was just talking. Ken, everybody you mentioned today, Jason Fung, I don't know if I mentioned that just now. Jason Fung has done maybe 4 or 5 shows here. The woman from Soda Politics, Nessel, she's been on the show. I'm just looking up at my thing here, all these different doctors. Susan Massino has been on 4 or 5 times. D'Agostino 6 times. He's the guy that created all of the, the big buzz about, he created the first ketogenic salts that you could take and go right into dietary ketosis and all this kind of stuff. All of this stuff is in these podcasts. I was doing it long before anyone else. You want to hear these, it's like $3. It looks like the link is broken if you just go back and try, but if you press on that thing and just give me $3, you get almost 1,000 episodes. So go do it. Ken, I want to talk about your book. You wrote a book. I know how hard it is to write a book. I've written 2 books in my life. I'm thinking about writing a 3rd one at this point. Your book, Lies My Doctor Told Me, and it's written by you, a doctor. What do we find in this book? And by the way, folks, it's going to be in the show notes here, and it's going to also be in the Vinnie Book Club. So if you click on that, it will automatically be an Amazon link. Ken, tell me about the book.
So this book is the culmination of the entirety of my medical practice. When I was in medical school and residency, often I would hear something that just didn't ring true to my common sense. And for those of you who don't know, I'm a common sense, black and white, 1 + 1 is 2 country boy. If it doesn't make common sense, then it makes my spidey sense tingle. And so when I was in medical school, I couldn't argue with my professor. When I was an intern, I couldn't, backsass the chief resident, but all I could do is just make a mental note like, that didn't sound right. I don't know if I believe that's really true or not. I'm going to make a mental note of that, and I'm going to study that later. And so some of these lies I come upon then, some of them I come upon later in my medical practice. And part of the problem is I'm guilty of telling many of these lies to my own patients early in my medical career before I knew any better. And so a lot of these lies I'm tattling on my own self. And like I told you earlier, I apologize to patients on an almost daily basis, either in person or online, for the lies that I told them early in my career when I didn't know any better. And so, there's about 20 different lies in the book, and I go into detail about why they're not true and how you can know they're not true. And then here's a couple of books you can read in the process to actually get more information. And so I tried to make the book as simple and as small as possible. It's almost 200 pages, but I tried to make it very plain spoken, just common English. I tried not to use big words and sound impressive. Because an old patient told me one time, he said, boy, a lot of doctors want to wear their white coat and their stethoscope, but let me tell you something. If you don't know who the doctor in the room is, the doctor's doing something wrong. And I thought, wow, that's philosophical right there. And so I don't wear a white coat, and I often don't identify myself as a doctor. I feel like that patient's right. If you don't know who the doctor in the room is, the doctor's not really doing a very impressive job, is he? So a doctor should look like he should be fit. He should be in shape. He should be healthy. He should be vigorous and vibrant. He shouldn't be that fat guy over in the corner, smoking a cigarette. That should never be the doctor. And I totally agree with that. And so this book is the culmination of just that kind of thinking.
If you were to tell me the top 2 or 3 lies where people are going to have that, oh my God moment where, like, we thought, bacon would kill us 5 years ago. If you could give us the top 2 or 3 where people, when you know what people tell you on social media, when people go, oh, geez, really? I mean, give us those.
Okay. So, you have to drink lots of milk to keep your bones good and strong, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
course.
that's a big fat lie. But there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of women in the Western world, in the U.S. and Canada, in the U.K. and Australia, excuse me, who think that they have to drink so much milk a day in order to get their, vitamin D or calcium,
right.
to get their calcium, right? And it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous lie. It's not true at all. And then, of course, the milk producers pick that up with, your milk mustache and got milk,
right,
and magnify that message. But that message started with doctors. It started with nutritionists and dietitians telling these women, you've got to get more calcium. You need to drink your milk for calcium. And that's baloney. There's no truth in that at all. There's no research that proves that. And that's one of the chapters in the book, is that's not true at all.
Give us a couple more, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure. Yeah. And so another one is the vitamin D. There's a lot of vitamin D in milk, right? Naturally,
right.
No, that's crap. That's not true at all. We fortify milk with vitamin D.
Vitamin D. I tell that to people all the time. They go, really? No, it's not. It's like, no, we put it in there.
Right. And there's a lot of people who say, oh, and if you'll drink raw, unprocessed, unpasteurized milk, it has vitamin D in it. No, not true at all. There's no vitamin D in that, okay? Vitamin D you get from fat. You get vitamin D from grass-fed butter. You get vitamin D from bacon, from pork. That's where vitamin D comes from. And, a lot of doctors tell people, oh, you don't have to take a vitamin D supplement. You get plenty of vitamin D. If you don't have rickets, then you're getting plenty of vitamin D. And that's just an outright lie. You need much more vitamin D than that. There's tons of research, especially in Europe, that shows that if your vitamin D level is, if you're getting lots of vitamin D, what would be considered a huge amount here in the States, your risk of infection is much lower. Your risk of cancer is much lower. Your bones are much stronger. All-cause mortality goes down if you're getting enough vitamin D, right? But in America, if your vitamin D level is above 30, then your doctor's freaking out and saying, well, why is your vitamin D level so high? I've had patients come to me and say, hey, my vitamin D level was 25 or was 50, and my doctor told me to stop that supplement immediately. I was overdosing and I was going to hurt myself. Is that true? And I was like, no, that's not true at all. Yeah. If your vitamin D levels are between 50 and 100, I'm very happy for you, because that's good. You're actually optimizing your health in hundreds of ways, because vitamin D is not just a vitamin. It's also a pre-hormone, and it helps facilitate hundreds of biochemical reactions in your body. And so without vitamin D, you don't die immediately. It's not like scurvy, but you do get something called osteomalacia, which is bone pain for no reason. Your risk of osteoporosis skyrockets. Your risk of infection and cancer skyrocket. And you just lead a miserable life until you die an early death.
You know, Ken, I don't like to, I have a vitamin company, Pure Vitamin Club, and we don't put out many different products. I only put out products I believe in, and our next product is, vitamin D, D3 with both Ks and K1 and K2, and then MK4 and MK7. We don't mess around at Pure Vitamin Club. We put the best of the best, and like I said, we're mixing it with Villicapelli. And someone said to me, well, why did you pick D? I said, because like everything else, most people are deficient in it. That's why we went with magnesium as our second supplement, and most people are deficient in it. And we need this. And I always tell people this before my D even comes out: go out. Take that, you could do a self-experiment. Just take a couple of thousand milligrams, or IUs a day. It's not in milligrams, it's in international units. So take a couple of thousand international units a day. Do that for 3 weeks. And then one day just abruptly stop. And then within 2 days, let me know how you feel. You won't feel as it's building up because it builds up slowly. But after 3 weeks or a month, just abruptly stop for a week. And then give me a call and tell me if you need vitamin D. And, because I've been working on this formula for well over a year now, maybe a year and a half, and we've done all kinds of little self-experiments, and it's amazing the difference you feel when you're on it and when you're off of it. Wouldn't you agree?
I absolutely agree. And I've had so many people who were actually taking narcotics for bone pain that another doctor had put them on.
Crazy.
Once they're taking a good supplement of vitamin D every day, they're like, Doc, my bones don't hurt anymore. I'm like, yeah, it's because you don't have osteomalacia anymore. Congratulations. And so, I see it every day that so many aches and pains are just caused by some vitamin deficiency from eating the standard American diet, which I translate as eating crap.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we go, if you don't mind, I should let you go, but one more thing in the book where people just go, my God, really?
Yeah. So let's talk about the sun and skin cancer. You really want to shake people up? Let's talk about that.
Sure.
So human beings have been on this earth for hundreds of thousands, millions of years, right? And the sun has been there the whole entire time. And yet only for some reason in the 1980s, the sun started being really bad for us and would give us skin cancer. And we were told to slather on sunscreen and stay out of the sun as much as possible, right?
Right.
Because there was a skin cancer epidemic. For some reason, back in the 60s and 50s and 40s and 30s and 20s, the sun didn't cause skin cancer.
Right.
But starting about the 80s, we suddenly discovered that the sun causes skin cancer and we should be protected from the sun at all times.
Right.
So what? Right? And so I talk about, that's one of the chapters in the book, and people say, well, the ozone layer is depleting. Well, here's the thing. If you went to the North Pole, right, and you measured UV radiation there from the sun, and you started traveling towards the equator, like it's a 20,000% increase in UV as you approach the equator.
Right.
And so in order for the depleted ozone layer to actually be the problem, it would have to be depleted. You'd have to have an increase in UV radiation that at least met that percentage increase, but really should be 10 or 20 times more than that, right?
Right.
You see my point? Because if you live at the equator, that's natural. If you live up in Norway, that's natural. So you can't say, oh, well, just moving towards the equator causes more skin cancer because that study's been done, and it doesn't.
Right.
People who live near the equator actually have less skin cancer. Wait, what? Yeah, exactly. And so there's a chapter in the book that basically lays out the argument that I don't think it's the sun that's causing the skin cancer epidemic. I think it's the food we're eating. I think that your skin is built of what you eat.
Sure.
Literally, the skin you're wearing now is not the same skin you had 3 months ago. Every single cell has been replaced by a new cell, right? And so maybe it's the food you're eating that's causing this skin cancer epidemic. Maybe it's not the sun, because the sun's been around for millions of years. But this standard American diet's only been around for the last 50, 60, 70 years, really in earnest. And so maybe that's the cause of the skin cancer epidemic. And of course, I just pissed off every dermatologist in the country when I said that. But I'm sorry, but the research supports that. And I give you stuff to look up and to read about And I actually give you the email address to the Dermatological Society in America. I want you to email them and ask them for a study that proves that the sun is the cause of the skin cancer epidemic. And I think they're going to have trouble emailing you that study because it doesn't exist.
Ken, I've been yelling about this literally since the 80s. I'm glad you brought that one up. Folks, it sounds like we put this together before the show. Ken will tell you, we haven't met before 5 minutes before I turn this mic on. But I've been yelling, everyone always says to me, oh, yeah, put sunscreen on. It's like, no, I don't use sunscreen. And they'll go, why? And I'll go, because it'll kill you. And they go, oh, there he goes again. It's like, why would I put that stuff on when, that's got chemicals in it? Right now, I have no chemicals on me. When I apply that, I now have chemicals. And then they'll say to me, okay, well, sometimes when you ride your bike 6 or 7 hours, you'll put some white stuff on your nose. I'll put the titanium dioxide on my nose. Why do you do that, Mr. Tough Guy? Or I go kayaking for long periods out in the ocean. Why do you do that, tough guy? It's like, oh, because when my nose is exposed like that for long periods in the wind with the sun, it becomes windburnt and sunburnt, and that hurts. I don't want that to hurt. So that's worth it to put a little coverage on that.
Sure.
But that's not every day. That's not all the time. That's not around the clock. That's, hey, I want to protect myself because I'm going to be out here for copious amounts of hours with water banking off the goddamn Pacific Ocean. And nothing more, nothing less, But no one, they go, oh, well, why don't you put it on? Why do you do it in that situation? Because I don't want to be in pain later. When the pain of this bike ride stops, I don't want the pain to continue, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I agree totally. And there are actually dermatological professionals and experts who will say, even if you work indoors all day, if you work near a window, you should put sunscreen on.
That's crazy.
That's a literal recommendation. And I'm like, what? That's ridiculous, because there's a huge, well-done study that shows that people who work outside have less skin cancer than people who work indoors. Yeah. How's that possible if it's the sun, right? So I'm not saying the sun is 0% responsible, but I'm saying that's not the prime cause here. We got to look somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't get any of it. Ken, I could go on and on with you forever. Would you promise to come back on at some point?
Yeah, this is fun. Let's do this again sometime.
Yeah, just like the regulars, like the Tim Noakes, like the Lauren Cordain has only been on once, but all these other guys, Jason Fung, Sean Baker, I'd love to have you on again and again. So you've brought so much knowledge to people today, and I appreciate that. Hang on just a second. I want to say goodbye to you off the air. Folks, if you like what's going on here, you know what to do. We talked about Amazon earlier in the thing, so I won't do another big Amazon ad, but we count on you guys clicking through at VinnieTortorich.com. And now when you click the Amazon ad, it automatically goes, I'm doing it right now just to make sure it works. Yes, it goes automatically to the Vinnie Tortorich's recommended products. If you want to just put it in and bookmark it, it's Amazon.com/shop/Vinnie Tortorich. Bookmark that, or bookmark it whenever you go to it from my website, and that will get the job done. Also, Dr. Berry's book, Lies My Doctor Told Me, will automatically be an Amazon link, and it will be in my book club, and it will be in my Amazon recommended products. So, folks, on behalf of Dr. Ken Berry, not the guy from the sitcom, but the guy that's going to make you feel better. My name is Vinnie Tortorich. Put life into living and do it with enthusiasm.
Check out more podcast episodes on iTunes. Follow Vinnie and Anna on Twitter, or contact us with your fitness questions at VinnieTortorich.com.
Hi everyone, Serena here, letting you know that the new free Intro to NSNG guide is here now. Available at VinnieTortorich.com/learn. VinnieTortorich.com/learn.
Do you like eating ingredients in paint? I didn't think so. But guess what's an ingredient in your vitamin? Titanium dioxide. Nobody wants to eat paint. Instead of eating paint, why don't you check out PureVitaminClub.com, the purest vitamins ever made. Vinnie Tortorich makes these vitamins. There's a multivitamin and a broad-spectrum magnesium. Nothing but vitamins in Pure Vitamin Club. No paint, no silica, no talc, no titanium dioxide. If you want to buy these vitamins, and I highly recommend you do, go to purevitaminclub.com. They're the best quality vitamins for the lowest possible price. In fact, I've told Vinnie he needs to raise the price, but he's not going to. Go check out purevitaminclub.com. You can get a monthly subscription or get them 1 month at a time. Purevitaminclub.com. The best vitamins ever made.
Hey, you guys want to take it to the next level, or maybe you've stalled a little bit in your weight loss? Maybe you want to run a marathon, maybe your first ultra. It doesn't matter what it is. I do consults. You can go to VinnieTortorich.com, look along the right side of the homepage. It'll say, talk to Vinnie today. You can sign up for a consult. Just wanted to let you guys know that that's available. Okay, talk to you soon.